morning, everyone. So we're about halfway through Lent, and the church, in her wisdom, today gives us these two readings that kind of sort of remind us of the nature of God, that remind us of the type of relationship that God desires for us. Now, in the first reading, Moses is kind of giving his farewell speech, right? This is he's been wandering with the Israelites for 40 years in the desert, and they're about to cross over into the promised land. But Moses is not going with them. And so he begins this speech, and he reminds them, first of all, that no other God, no other nation has a God like our God, a God who is close to his people. And so God desires a very close relationship with us. And he has a very close relationship with us. And then, now this is a long speech. It goes on. Moses is kind of long-winded. Right? It goes on for a couple of chapters. But the law that he's reminding them of is the Ten Commandments, right? So a couple of chapters later, he reminds them of those Ten Commandments. It's not the first time they heard them. And so those Ten Commandments, lots of thou shalt nots. Don't do this, don't do that, right? You say, well, gosh, that doesn't sound, that kind of sounds restrictive, right? You can't do this, can't do that. But God, in his love and his desire for that close relationship, gives us kind of guidelines for an orderly society. And then we fast forward to the gospel where Jesus is saying, hey, I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Now, first of all, Jesus is the embodiment of that closeness that God desires for us. Moses reminds them, we have a God who is very close to us. He is so close to us that he became one of us. He became a human being and walked among us. That is a very close God. And he's reminding them, I'm not abolishing the commandments, the law. I am fulfilling the law. So he's fulfilling that closeness, but he's also kind of clarifying what the thou shalt nots mean. Because underlying all of those commandments, the foundation of all of those commandments is love. Jesus preaches a gospel of love. And he reminds us that, hey, it's not about what not to do, it's what to do. If we live our lives, if we approach our daily life from the perspective of love of God, love of others, then we don't need the commandments. We don't need to know what not to do because it's just natural to not do those things that God says don't do. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't kill, don't commit adultery. Nobody has to tell you that if you come from love. Sometimes we forget, right? And we do need reminders what not to do. But we have a God who desires that intimate closeness with us, who desires that we be creatures of love. And if we begin and end with love, the world would be a heck of a lot better place if we could all do that all the time. But this morning, we gather together to have that intimate connection with the God of love as we receive him in the Holy Eucharist. And we leave here today with Jesus within us. And let us reflect Jesus into the world today to be the love in the world that God desires for us.